This tutorial is meant to demonstrate how to use a multimeter as an ammeter. Again, we have our meters turned on, older variety, newer variety. Again, we look at the terminals here, and we want to connect it as an ammeter. Before we saw volts, ohms, and diode test. Now we see the milliamp terminal. And so we're going to put the red lead in the milliamp terminal, and we're going to put the black lead in the common terminal. Those are the terminals that you use for an ammeter. The ammeter has two sets of ammeter terminals, one for milliamps and one down here for amps. The amps is for things like 10 amps or large currents. The milliamp meter is just for smaller current values. They're both fused, and you have to be very careful that you don't blow the fuses. So now we have the terminals correct. Now we have to select this as an ammeter. I'm going to select it as a DC ammeter, and this is now ready to go. The power supply, I've adjusted this such that it has a voltage output of 15 volts, but I've limited the current to 50 milliamps. And so now when I take my terminals, my probes, and I plug them in, all right, so there we are, we're ready to go. I'm going to enable this thing, and when I enable it, you can see that this is 49.5 milliamps. I've limited this to 49 or 50 milliamps, and so that's where the current limit function is useful on your power supply, and this is an ammeter. Again, an ammeter is a very low resistance device, and as soon as I place it across that terminals, you see that the voltage falls immediately, and it goes essentially to zero because it's being shorted out by the ammeter. The ammeter has no resistance whatsoever to it, and if you apply an ammeter in parallel with anything, you'll just short it out. So the ammeter must go in series with whatever it is that you're trying to measure the current through. So the ammeter is a series device, the voltmeter is a parallel device. Ammeter always goes in series. Now we can use the older meter. Again, I'll come over to the milliamp terminal. I'll come to the common terminal. I will select DC amps. I will select milliamps. Now this time I don't want 2 milliamps. I don't want 20 milliamps. I want 200 milliamps in order to look after the 500 or the 50 milliamps that I've applied there. And so I stick these two probes in as before. I'll energize that, and we have 49.6 milliamps. Again, it's being current limited by the supply. So the ammeter is a series device. It goes in series, and it's measured by using the appropriate terminals and then the appropriate range or an auto range as necessary.